where even the dirtiest, most forgotten pennies can turn into shocking treasures. Today, we're diving into 5 Lincoln wheat pennies that look like they've been through decades of wear. But don't be fooled. These rough-looking coins are hiding incredible value. Some of these worn-down cents have sold for thousands, and one of them reached a jaw-dropping price that even shocked professional collectors. So before you toss that old penny jar aside, you might want to take another look, because one of these could be sitting in your home right now. Let's jump in, and if you love uncovering stories behind rare coins, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss what might be hiding in your pocket change. Our first, imagine holding in your hand a small copper coin minted in 1953, a wheat penny, whose face value was just 1 cent, but whose story stretches across generations of American history, economic change, artistry in coin design, and the subtle mysteries of numismatics. This is not just a penny. It is a window into the post-war era, a time when America was finding its footing after World War II, when prosperity was rising, but also when global tensions of the Cold War were beginning to shape the world. The wheat penny of 1953 tells us about how coins were made, the metal they were struck from the mints that produced them, the artistry of Victor David Brenner, who first designed the Lincoln cent in 1909, and the enduring symbolism of wheat, ears that represented American agriculture strength and growth. In those years, every coin in circulation carried a message far greater than its face value. The story of the 1953 wheat penny begins with its design. On the obverse, we find Abraham Lincoln, the beloved 16th president immortalized on the cent since 1909. The Lincoln cent was the first U.S. coin to bear the portrait of an actual person, breaking away from the classical allegories of liberty that had dominated coinage for over a century. Brenner's design placed Lincoln facing right with the word liberty to his left and the date to his right above him, the motto, "In God We Trust," which had been appearing on coins since the Civil War era. What makes this coin iconic is the reverse, with its 2 simple wheat stalks, one on each side, framing the words 1 cent and United States of America, along with the motto, E pluribus unum. This wheat design would last until 1958 before being replaced in 1959 by the Lincoln Memorial reverse. But beyond the design lies the real depth of history. The 1953 wheat penny was minted at 3 locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Each mint left its own small mark of history. Philadelphia coins carried no mint mark. Denver pennies bore a D, and San Francisco pennies and S. Collectors today seek out these varieties not only for their differences, but for their relative rarity. The Philadelphia Mint produced over 256 million coins. Denver struck more than 700 million, while San Francisco produced a more modest 181 million. In total. Over 1 billion wheat pennies were struck in 1953, which speaks to the incredible demand for small change in post-war America. The metal content of these coins is another layer of their story, struck in 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. These coins carry within them the last full era of copper cents, before the dramatic changes of the 1970s and 1980s, when rising metal costs would lead to pennies being made primarily of zinc. The feel, weight, and tone of a 1953 cent speaks to an earlier age, when coins carried substance, when every clink in the pocket resonated with real metal. The historical backdrop of 1953 adds even greater meaning. Dwight D. Eisenhower was president. The Korean War had just ended, the Cold War was heating up, and the American economy was booming. Suburban expansion, consumer spending, and industrial growth were reshaping the nation. Coins were everywhere: vending machines, buses, corner stores, pay telephones. All required pennies, nickels, and dimes. In those years, the penny still mattered. It could buy a stick of gum, a piece of candy, or contribute to a gallon of gasoline, costing just 29 cents. When we study a 1953 wheat penny, we are not only studying metal, but also the daily life of millions of Americans. For collectors, the value of the 1953 wheat penny varies dramatically depending on its condition. while most circulated examples are worth only a few cents to perhaps $1. Pristine examples, uncirculated with full red luster, can fetch far more, especially those certified by grading services like PCGS or NGC. And then there are errors and varieties which make certain 1953 cents worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars, doubled dies. Repunched mint marks off center strikes or coins struck on the wrong planchets. All are treasures waiting to be discovered in rolls jars or family coin boxes. The artistry of the wheat penny design also invites deep reflection. The choice of wheat. Ears as the central motif was not accidental in 1909. When Brenner created the design, the United States was still a largely agricultural nation. Wheat represented prosperity, nourishment, and growth. It was a symbol the average citizen could connect with. By 1953, though the country was shifting toward industrialization and urban living, yet the coin still carried that agricultural legacy, as if to remind Americans of their roots. As we dig deeper, we can look at the transition that followed just a few years later in 1959, when the wheat reverse gave way to the Lincoln Memorial. This marked the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth and signaled a new direction in coin design. The 1953 wheat penny thus sits near the end of an era representing the last chapter of the beloved wheat design. Collectors cherish these coins not only for their copper glow but for their place as one of the final wheat issues. Even more fascinating is how these coins circulated. They traveled in the pockets of soldiers returning from Korea, factory workers, suburban families, children saving coins in piggy banks. They were exchanged in diners, jukeboxes, laundromats, and corner stores. Every scratch and mark on a circulated 1953 penny tells a story of everyday American life. To truly appreciate the 1953 wheat penny, we must also consider the broader numismatic tradition. The Lincoln cent has been in continuous production for over a century, making it the longest-running coin design in U.S. history. When you hold a 1953 cent, you are touching part of that legacy, part of a series that has endured longer than any other in American coinage history. This little coin connects us to art, politics, economics, and the ordinary lives of people decades ago. It teaches us how to see coins not just as money, but as historical documents, tiny works of art and enduring artifacts of culture for the collector, for the historian, for the curious soul. The 1953 wheat penny is a treasure not for its rarity alone, but for the story it carries from the heart of mid-century America. The year was 1945, a year that carried the weight of both victory and devastation, a year that marked the closing chapter of the Second World War and the beginning of a new global order. And yet in the middle of this monumental year of history, the United States Mint quietly produced a coin that would become a piece of everyday life and also a marker of that era's spirit. The 1945 Lincoln wheat cent. This humble 1-cent piece, minted in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, was struck at a time when the United States stood at a crossroads between wartime sacrifice and peacetime rebuilding, and in every way the 1945 wheat penny tells a story of America's resilience, its economy, its culture, and its people. The obverse of the coin continued to feature the enduring profile of Abraham Lincoln, a design first introduced in 1909 by Victor David Brenner to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's birth, and by 1945, this portrait was more than just a likeness. It had become a national symbol, one that Americans looked upon daily in their pockets as they endured. Rationing, worked in factories, supported soldiers overseas, and prepared for life after the war on the reverse. 2 simple wheat stalks framed the words, 1 cent United States of America, flanked by E pluribus unum, meaning out of many one. This design represented both simplicity and strength during an age when every ounce of copper, every moment of labor, and every resource had to be carefully allocated to support the war effort. But by 1945, something important had changed for the wheat cent for 3 years. From 1942 to 1944, the mint had experimented with alternative metals for the penny because copper was needed for ammunition shell casings and other wartime materials. In 1943, the famous steel penny was struck a coin with a zinc-coated steel core that looked silvery and unusual compared to the traditional bronze cent by 1944. However, the mint returned to a primarily copper-based composition, using recycled shell casings from military stockpiles, and so the 1945 wheat penny belongs to that period of wartime and post-wartime metallurgy. It is composed of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, though in reality, most 1945 cents were closer to being 95% copper and 5% zinc. Because tin supplies were extremely limited, this detail matters because collectors today can trace how the war not only changed the appearance of coins, but also their physical makeup. And when you hold a 1945 wheat cent, you are holding a coin whose copper may have once been a shell casing used on the battlefield, reminding us that even the smallest coin carried within it the echoes of global conflict, the mintage figures of the 1945. Penny also tell us a great deal about the time in Philadelphia. The main mint produced more than 1 billion of these coins, an enormous number that reflected both the booming American economy at the end of the war and the need for circulating currency. As millions of soldiers returned home and re-entered civilian life in Denver, the mint struck over 266 million coins, and in San Francisco more than 181 million. All told, the 1945 wheat cent is one of the most common wheat pennies of the era, yet despite its abundance, the coin is cherished by collectors not simply because of rarity, but because of context. It stands as a snapshot of a single pivotal year. The year the war ended, the year the atomic age began, the year millions around the world breathed both relief and uncertainty. It is a coin that connects pocket change to world history. When we examine the Philadelphia issue, we find that the absence of a mint mark on the coin does not diminish its historical value. It is the sheer volume of Philadelphia's production that shows us the industrial might of the United States. During that period, the Denver issue carries the familiar D beneath the date, reminding us of the Rocky Mountain Mint that had become a powerhouse of wartime coinage production, while the San Francisco S marked coins tie us to the West Coast and to a mint facility that had been crucial not just in making coins, but in supplying the Pacific theater economy with currency. If we step back and consider the artistic side of the 1945 wheat cent, we see Victor David Brenner's design still crisp, still emblematic of early 20th century ideals. Brenner's Lincoln was not just a portrait, but a statement about democracy, integrity, and leadership. His initials VDB had caused controversy in 1909 when they were first placed on the reverse and later removed. But by 1945, collectors and the public alike had accepted his artistry as one of the most enduring in American numismatics. What makes the 1945 wheat penny even more fascinating is the way it circulated through everyday American life. Pennies like these paid for newspapers in the morning. They bought candy and soda for children. They dropped into jukeboxes at the local diner. They were stacked into rolls at banks across the nation. They found their way into church collection plates and soldiers' pockets, and for many families of the 1940s, these coins were a constant companion in a time of both hardship and hope. As the war ended in Europe in May of 1945, and in the Pacific in August of that year, coins like the 1945 wheat penny were spent in celebration, in mourning, and in rebuilding the everyday rhythm of life. The collector of today sees not just a common bronze coin, but an artifact of that time frame. Collectors also study the variations in strike quality between the mints. Philadelphia coins often display sharper details because of the higher mintages and fresher dyes. Denver and San Francisco issues sometimes show weaker strikes or differences in luster, but these small variations become significant in the hands of a numismatist who seeks to connect every detail of the coin to the history of its making errors. To play a role in the story, Of the 1945 wheat penny-like doubled die, obverses, repunched mint marks, and off-center strikes, which can elevate an ordinary cent to a prized rarity within a collection. And here again the history deepens. For these errors were not merely accidents. They were the natural byproducts of a mint working at maximum capacity during an age of industrial strain, when the demands of production sometimes outpaced perfection. When you expand the lens further, you see that the 1945 wheat penny sits at the end of an era, because in just a few years, by 1959, the reverse design would change from the wheat ears to the Lincoln Memorial, reflecting a shift in both style and national identity. So this coin is part of the last great generation of wheat, cents which today are treasured for their link to a different America. To tell the story of the 1945 wheat penny is to tell the story of a nation at a turning point. And that is why collectors, historians, and everyday enthusiasts alike continue to search for these coins in circulation in estate sales and in old family jars. They are reminders that history is not only written in textbooks or in monuments, but in the smallest everyday objects that passed from hand to hand silently, recording the triumphs and tragedies of their time. The 1945 wheat penny is therefore more than a cent, more than copper, more than a design. It is a bridge between the hardships of war and the promise of peace, between the sacrifices of the greatest generation and the aspirations of those who came after it. Is a story you can hold between your fingers, a story of America at its most determined, most tested, and most triumphant. Humble coin could be one of the most important pieces in American numismatic history. The year is 1938. America stands quietly in the shadows of a changing world. The Great Depression is ending. The winds of war are blowing overseas, and yet in the pocket of a hard-working American sits a simple copper coin. 1 cent bearing the face of Abraham Lincoln with 2 wheat stalks on the back. This is the wheat penny of 1938, and its story is far deeper than its denomination. The wheat penny design began in 1909, marking the centennial of Lincoln's birth, created by Victor David Brenner. The obverse features the iconic portrait of Lincoln, while the reverse carries 2 wheat ears, symbolizing prosperity and unity. This design would continue until 1958. But every year within this series holds its own chapter, and the year 1938 brings forward its own tale. Minted in 3 locations, Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The 1938 wheat penny was struck in a time of preparation and economic transition. The Philadelphia Mint produced over 156 million coins, the Denver Mint just over 20 million, and the San Francisco Mint a little over 15 million. These numbers may seem large, but for collectors and historians, the story lies beyond the mintage. It lies in condition variations, mint marks, historical context, errors, and survival rates. Let us begin with the historical backdrop of 1938. The United States was still grappling with the effects of the Depression, but slowly recovering. Franklin D. Roosevelt was president. His New Deal programs were reshaping American life, jobs were returning, industry was growing, and yet Europe was heading toward the Second World War. Coins of this era became subtle witnesses to these times, circulating in millions of hands across cities, towns, and rural communities. The penny may have seemed insignificant, but it was a daily tool, a necessity, a marker of time. In terms of composition, the 1938 wheat penny followed the standard used since 1909, 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. This bronze alloy would continue until 1943, when the wartime steel cent was temporarily introduced, but the 1938 penny remains within that traditional copper standard, giving it a rich reddish-brown tone when preserved properly. That tone is sought after today by collectors, especially in uncirculated condition. Next, we must understand the significance of mint marks. The Philadelphia coins bear no mark. Denver bears the D and San Francisco bears the AS. The 1938 D and 1938 S coins had lower mintages, making them more desirable in higher grades, while circulated examples are common mint, state red examples with full details. Clean surfaces and strong luster are far scarcer and bring higher premiums at auction. A key area of intrigue in the wheat penny series is error coins, and the 1938 penny offers several examples from doubled dies to off-center strikes, repunched mint marks, and die cracks errors from the Denver Mint. Especially are often sought due to their crisp strike quality and the likelihood of varieties developing in smaller runs. Repunched mint marks or RPM coins are known to exist in the 1938 D series, with doubling visible under magnification in the DI mint mark itself. These varieties are cataloged by specialists and fetch strong interest among error collectors. Moving into the realm of grading, we consider how these coins are evaluated on the 70-point Sheldon scale. A 1938 penny in good condition may only bring face value or slightly more, but one in MS65 red condition certified by PCGs or NGC can be worth significant sums, especially if it possesses a rare variety or a perfectly preserved surface, with original mint luster color plays a major role as well, with red, brown, and brown designations describing the copper color preservation. Red is most desirable as it indicates minimal oxidation and maximum eye appeal. The auction history of the 1938 wheat penny tells a vivid story. In recent years, MS67 red examples have sold for hundreds, even thousands, depending on rarity and demand. For example, a 1938 D in MS67 red with a sharp strike and original color may bring over $1,000 in top venues, including heritage auctions, stacks, Bowers, and great collections. The provenance or ownership history of these coins can also enhance their value, with some specimens carrying a chain of elite collectors in their records. Beyond the numbers, the 1938 wheat penny serves as a mirror of American resilience, as the nation climbed out of economic hardship and into a new industrial era. This coin circulated during moments of transformation, from radio dominance to the rise of television, from old world immigration to new world industry, from the first supermarket to the last days before World War II. Each coin touched lives, witnessed transactions, and silently chronicled the American experience. For the numismatist, the 1938 wheat penny is not just a collectible, it is a portal into the past. It allows us to trace metallurgy, technology, design, and the evolution of American culture through something as simple as 1 cent. It is why collectors pursue not just rarity, but connection. It is why condition matters, not just for value, but for preservation of memory. Advanced collectors often pursue full sets of wheat pennies by year and mint mark, with high-grade examples filling albums or slabbed collections. The 1938 issues, especially from San Francisco, are considered condition. Rarities, meaning few high-grade red examples, survive from that mint due to weaker strikes and less careful handling over time. Their population in top grades remains limited, creating constant demand. We must also speak of fakes and counterfeits as the hobby has grown. So have attempts to create replicas, altered mint marks, or artificially colored pieces. This makes authentication crucial, especially for high-value coins. Third party grading services play a vital role in ensuring legitimacy, assigning grades and sealing coins in tamper-proof holders with serial numbers accessible online through databases. In the world of education and museums, the wheat penny remains an accessible tool for teaching history, economics, and design. Even schools use them to introduce children to coin collecting and the world of numismatics. A 1938 wheat penny can spark conversations about inflation, industry politics, and the personal stories of those who use them daily. As we move deeper into the 21st century, the value of these pennies extends beyond price. It lies in preservation, storytelling, and the shared passion of millions of collectors worldwide, from beginners with jars of old change to specialists curating mint state rarities. The community continues to grow, centered around the quiet, humble wheat penny. As we approach the conclusion of this detailed journey, let us reflect on what makes the 1938 wheat penny so compelling. It is not its price tag, though some are quite valuable. It is not only its copper shine, though brilliant reds catch the eye. It is its place in history. A coin minted on the brink of war, carried through a time of peace and struggle, used by people whose names we may never know, but whose legacy we honor with every coin collected, every story told, every memory preserved. So next time you come across a wheat penny, take a closer look. If it says 1938, remember that you hold not just a coin, but a piece of the American soul, a quiet survivor from a world that was changing 1 cent at a time. Forgotten America. The year was 1936. The United States was still crawling out of the Great Depression, and across the nation, coins played a vital role in everyday survival. Among them, the Lincoln wheat penny stood as a symbol of endurance, humility, and hope. This particular year marked the continuation of a coin series that began in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, designed by Victor David Brenner. The wheat reverse became iconic, instantly representing the harvest of American labor and the fruits of democratic ideals. As the economy struggled in 1936, Americans clutched these small copper coins, using them for everything from a loaf of bread to a stamp for a heartfelt letter home. These coins were not just currency. They were lifelines, circulating through cities, farms, and factory towns alike. In 1936, 3 mint locations were responsible for the production of the wheat penny: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, with Philadelphia producing the majority, with over 300 million coins denoted with no mint mark. The Denver Mint released about 40 million identified with AD, and the San Francisco Mint produced over 29 million carrying the S Mint mark. Each of these coins carries its own narrative based on where it was struck and how it aged through time. The 1936 penny also stands out for the existence of a highly desirable collectible, the 1936 double die obverse, variety caused by a misalignment in the die during minting. This error created a doubling effect most noticeable in the words "Liberty in God," "We Trust," and the date 1936 itself. This variety is incredibly rare, and when found in high condition can fetch thousands of dollars among collectors. This mint error was not caught early, and therefore many entered circulation unknowingly, making the hunt for one today like searching for a needle in a haystack. But the historical relevance of the 1936 wheat penny goes far beyond mint errors. During this time, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt was implementing the Second New Deal. The Works Progress Administration was building schools, roads, and bridges across America, and these very pennies passed through the hands of workers who were employed through government relief programs. A 1936 penny might have been tossed into a jukebox at a diner on Route 66 or dropped into a steel donation box at a local church. It could have been part of a young boy's allowance saved for comic books or part of a mother's last coin to buy milk for her family. Its journey is unknowable yet deeply woven into American life. During this transformative period, these coins were 95% copper, with the remainder being a mix of tin and zinc. They weigh about 31 grams with a diameter of 19 millimeters. Their reddish-brown tone varies depending on how they have been stored and cared for over the years. Uncirculated examples retain their original luster, while circulated ones tell stories through scratches, toning, and dents. The Philadelphia Mint had no mint mark, and many of these are still found today in average circulated condition, worth just a few cents. However, in uncirculated or red mint state, they can be worth significantly more, particularly in mint state grades above MS-65, where values jump into hundreds of dollars. The Denver Mint D-Mark coins were fewer but still widely available. Their value follows a similar pattern, with mint state coins being the most desirable. The San Francisco Mint coins with the S Mint mark are even more sought after, especially in high grade due to their relatively lower mintage. One of the most important aspects for collectors is eye appeal. This includes not only luster and color, but also strike quality and surface preservation, because these pennies were produced during a high-demand year. Some dies were overused, resulting in weak strikes. These coins are less desirable to advanced collectors, but still hold numismatic interest. In 1936, the United States was slowly seeing signs of economic recovery, but global tension was rising in Europe and Asia. The penny minted this year therefore represents a moment of peace before the storm, as by 1939 the world would once again plunge into war. These pennies remained in circulation throughout World War II and were part of the copper hoarding that led to the 1943 steel cent. During the war effort, some 1936 pennies were buried during the Dust Bowl migration, hidden in tin cans under floorboards or lost on abandoned farms. Today, metal detectorists often find them in the most unexpected places with corrosion, telling a silent tale of time and earth. Some collectors pursue the complete set of wheat pennies from 1909 to 1958, and the 1936 penny is a crucial piece in that collection, especially if the collector is chasing the famed 1936 double die. The rarity of this variety cannot be overstated. It is often counterfeited due to its high value, and as such, authentication by a third-party grading service like PCGs or NGC is essential. The process of grading a 1936 penny includes a detailed examination under magnification to assess doubling strike quality and wear. In cases of Miss 66 or higher with red color designation, the value can skyrocket at auctions. Coin shows across the United States often highlight rare varieties, and the 1936 DDoS are centerpieces in displays and dealer tables. Not only is this penny a collector's dream, but it has also become a symbol in American culture, appearing in textbooks, coin guides, and even inspirational stories of kids finding one in change that turns out to be worth hundreds or thousands. Those stories fuel the dream of treasure hunting among casual collectors and spark new generations of numismatists interested in the rich legacy of American coinage. The 1936 wheat penny is not just copper, it is a microcosm of American life in the mid-1930s, reflecting economic struggle, governmental innovation, and the quiet resilience of a nation. This coin holds its place among the most important and beloved collectible cents in United States history, and as every year passes, it grows even more valuable as a historical artifact, especially those preserved in mint state, from its design roots in the Art Nouveau movement through Victor Brenner's portraiture to the rustic harvest imagery of wheat on the reverse. The coin bridges artistry, economy, and memory. Each scratch, each mark, each fade is a fingerprint of American past, making the 1936 wheat penny more than money. It is memory in metal form, and those who hold one hold a piece of unfiltered history. The 1955 wheat penny is more than copper. It is a key to unlocking forgotten stories. A symbol of error turned into gold and a living legend among coin hunters across generations. If you own one, you could be sitting on a fortune. If you find one, you've struck gold. Now let's journey into the untold story of the 1955 wheat penny, where truth meets myth and history breathes in metal. The story of the 1955 wheat penny begins not in 1955 but deep within the American soul, where coins were never just currency, but reflections of national pride, strength, and values. The wheat penny, or Lincoln cent, first minted in 1909, was a tribute to President Abraham Lincoln and a bold step forward for U.S. coinage. This coin was the first to feature a real historical figure on its face, a major departure from the allegorical designs of earlier American coins. The obverse featured a bust of Lincoln designed by Victor David Brenner, whose initials caused controversy when first included on the coin. The reverse showed two stalks of wheat, symbols of prosperity and growth, tying the coin to the land and the labor of the American people. For nearly 5 decades, the wheat penny would become an everyday part of life. It would be exchanged in shops, found in lunch boxes, and dropped into piggy banks by children. The Lincoln cent became more than a coin. It was a witness to history, from the World Wars to the Great Depression to the Cold War. And in 1955, this humble coin became the center of one of the most famous minting errors in American history. The Philadelphia Mint was the birthplace of the 1955 double-die penny, one of the most iconic errors ever produced in American numismatics. The process of minting coins involves the use of dies which stamp designs onto blank metal discs called planchets. Normally, these dies are prepared with great care, but in 1955, something went terribly wrong. During the die creation process, one working die received a second impression that was misaligned, creating a phenomenon known as doubling. When this die began striking coins, the result was stunning. The date and the letters, especially in the words "Liberty" and "In God We Trust," appeared as if doubled ghosted, creating a dramatic and unmistakable effect. Hundreds of thousands of these error coins were struck during a single overnight shift before the mistake was caught. But instead of destroying the flawed coins, the mint let them circulate, blending them into standard coin bags bound for banks and businesses. No official statement was made. No warning was given. The double die pennies simply entered circulation like any other cent. When the coins reached the public, the reaction was immediate, and electric people began noticing the strange, doubled lettering. Especially the date 1955, collectors scrambled to get their hands on them. Newspapers picked up the story, and soon the 1955 double die became a household name. This was not just an error, it was a sensation. Some called it a minting miracle. Others believed it was deliberate, a marketing stunt or conspiracy, but all agreed on one thing: the coin was unlike anything seen before. And it sparked a modern gold rush across America. Coin dealers began offering premiums to anyone who could find one. Children emptied their coin jars. Adults began checking every penny they received in change. This frenzy lasted years, and even today, the 1955 double die remains one of the most desired coins in circulation, despite being nearly 70 years old. As demand skyrocketed, so did the number of counterfeits. Many attempted to recreate the double die using mechanical doubling and other methods. But the true 1955 double die has distinct features that experts use to authenticate it. Genuine coins show strong doubling, especially on the obverse with clearly separated letters and date digits. The doubling appears as raised and bold, not flattened, as with machine doubling the position of the mint mark. The style of the bid, lettering, and even the specific die markers help distinguish the real from the fake. Collectors use high magnification and comparison tools to identify genuine examples. And today, third-party grading services like PCGS and NGC play a critical role in certifying and encapsulating these coins, ensuring their legitimacy and preserving them for future generations. The value of a 1955 double die wheat penny has climbed steadily over the decades depending on condition. This coin can sell from hundreds to thousands of dollars. Uncirculated mint state examples have fetched staggering prices at auction. One pristine MS-65 red example sold for over $100,000. The rarity of high-grade specimens combined with the coin's legendary status has made it a crown jewel of Lincoln cent collections. Even circulated versions with visible doubling can be worth hundreds, if not thousands. Collectors prize eye appeal, and originality coins that are not cleaned or altered often command higher prices. As of now, there is no sign of this coin's value dropping, as it remains both historically important and endlessly fascinating to collectors. Beyond its market value, the 1955 wheat penny holds a special place in the heart of American coin collecting. It is often the first major error coin that collectors learn about, and many begin their numismatic journeys by trying to hunt one down. The coin has appeared in books, magazines, news reports, and documentaries. It is a symbol of how chance and mistake can lead to greatness in the world of minting. It also serves as a case study in how the public reacts to rarity and mystery in everyday objects. Teachers use it to inspire students about history. Minting and economics museums display it as a representation of American innovation and imperfection. The coin has outlived its era and become a timeless story. While the double die is the star of 1955, there are other interesting varieties and standard issues. From that year, the regular 1955 wheat penny is still collectible, especially in high grades, and Mint States pennies from the Denver Mint, though not struck with a double die, are part of sets for year collectors. Proof sets from that year do not include the famous double die, but are still desirable for their sharp details and low mintages. Researchers have also documented minor doubling and other errors from 1955, including die cracks, cuts off center strikes, and more. Each of these adds to the rich story of the year and fuels the passion of collectors. Finding a 1955 double die today is rare, but not impossible. Searching old coin jars, inherited collections, and bank rolls can still yield treasure. Online auctions, estate sales, and coin shows remain great hunting grounds. But caution is key due to the many counterfeits. Verifying authenticity through grading and expert review is essential. Starting a Lincoln cent collection with focus on wheat pennies is a smart move for new collectors, and the 1955 double die serves as a perfect centerpiece. Storing coins, properly learning how to grade them, and studying minting history will help build a rewarding and valuable collection. The 1955 wheat penny, especially the double die, remains one of the greatest stories in U.S. coin history. It is a symbol of how an accident can create a masterpiece, how a single night at the mint can echo across generations. It captures the imagination, not just because of its look or its value, but because it reminds us that in the smallest places, even in a copper penny, there can be greatness, mystery, and history waiting to be discovered. The coin connects everyday people to the minting process, to the fabric of America, and to the shared excitement of finding something rare in the most unexpected of places. Step into the world of numismatic treasure, where every coin tells a hidden story. Today we unlock the secrets of the rare American coins, focusing on the legendary wheat penny of 1939, a small piece of copper that carries the weight of history, rarity, and collector passion. The wheat penny of 1939 stands as one of the most remarkable pieces of American coinage history, a coin that was struck during a turbulent time when the United States was slowly recovering from the Great Depression, and the world was on the brink of entering the most devastating conflict in human history, the Second World War. To understand the wheat penny of 1939, we must go back in time to the origins of the Lincoln cent, which was first introduced in 1909 as a way to honor the centennial of President Abraham Lincoln's birth. It was the first widely circulated American coin to feature a real historical figure, and it replaced the Indian head cent that had been in circulation since 1859. The design of the Lincoln cent was created by Victor David Brenner, an immigrant from Lithuania who became one of the most celebrated engravers of his time. He crafted a portrait of Abraham Lincoln based on a photograph taken by Matthew Brady, and the reverse side of the coin carried two wheat stalks symbolizing prosperity and agricultural strength, which gave the coin its nickname, the wheat penny, from 1909 until 1958. The wheat reverse was used, making this series one of the most beloved by collectors across the world. The 1939 wheat penny falls within this range, and although on the surface it may appear to be just another copper cent, its story is rich with history, minting details, rarity varieties, and the economic backdrop of its time. The year 1939 was significant for both the United States and the world in America. The economy was still healing from the long shadow of the Great Depression. The New Deal programs launched earlier in the decade had brought some recovery, but unemployment remained high, and industries were still struggling to return to pre-1929 levels internationally. September of 1939 marked the beginning of World War II when Germany invaded Poland, and although the United States did not enter the war until 1941, the global tension was already shaping policies. Trade and public sentiment coins struck in this year therefore carry with them not only the image of Lincoln, but also the weight of a nation in transition. Industries were still struggling to return to pre-1929 levels internationally. September of 1939 marked the beginning of World War II when Germany invaded Poland, and although the United States did not enter the war until 1941, the global tension was already shaping policies. Trade and public sentiment coins struck in this year therefore carry with them not only the image of Lincoln, but also the weight of a nation in transition. The 1939 wheat penny was struck at three United States mints: the Philadelphia Mint, which produced coins without a mint mark, the Denver Mint with the D mint mark, and the San Francisco Mint with the S mint mark. Each of these carries its own level of rarity and collector interest. The Philadelphia Mint produced the highest mintage of 316 million pieces, which makes the 1939 no-mint mark penny relatively common. The Denver Mint produced around 15 million coins, making it scarcer, while the San Francisco Mint struck just under 52 million pieces, placing it in between the two in terms of availability. However, collectors value these coins not just for their mintage numbers, but also for the condition in which they survive. Uncirculated examples of the 1939 wheat penny, particularly those with sharp strikes and original red luster, are considered treasures by numismatists. Grading agencies like PCGS and NGC assign numerical grades to coins with mint state 65 and higher being the most sought after, while circulated coins are easy to find. Pristine, uncirculated survivors are much more difficult. This is because pennies were heavily used in everyday transactions, and most were quickly worn down through circulation, making high-grade survivors rare. There are also notable varieties and errors associated with the 1939 wheat penny. One of the most recognized is the doubled die obverse, where details like the date or lettering appear doubled under magnification. Though not as famous as the 1955 doubled die, the 1939 varieties still attract strong collector interest. Repunched mint marks, where the D or S mint mark appears to have been stamped more than once, are also popular among collectors and can dramatically increase the value of the coin in auctions and private sales error. Coins such as off-center strikes, clipped planchets, or die cracks from this year are also cherished for their uniqueness. Each error coin represents a glimpse into the minting process and the imperfections that escape the quality control of the time. The composition of the 1939 wheat penny was 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, weighing 3.11 grams and measuring 19 millimeters in diameter. This standard composition had been used for decades and would remain until 1943, when wartime shortages forced the mint to strike pennies in zinc-coated steel. Instead, copper was needed for the production of ammunition and military equipment during the war years, which makes the pre-1943 copper cents, including the 1939 penny, important markers of the pre-war era. Holding in your hand a 1939 penny is holding a Your hand, a 1939 penny, is holding a fragment of America just before it stepped fully into World War II. Collectors often categorize the 1939 wheat penny into several groups based on strike quality and preservation coins, with original red surfaces are considered the highest tier, followed by red-brown, and then brown coins which show full toning from circulation. Red examples in high mint state grades can fetch hundreds of dollars, while even circulated versions hold steady value because of their age, historical importance, and popularity among collectors. When we look at the broader history of the wheat penny, we see that the 1939 issue sits in the middle of the series. It was not the first, not the last, and not struck in a key year like 1909 or 1955, but it still tells its own story. The story of a nation standing between depression and war, a people who still believed in progress and prosperity, symbolized by the wheat stalks, and a mint that continued to deliver billions of coins to fuel commerce during uncertain times. Beyond the facts and figures, the 1939 wheat penny has a cultural significance. Many collectors can remember finding these coins in circulation decades later, well into the 1950s and 1960s, when wheat pennies were still commonly encountered in pocket change. Today, finding one in circulation is rare but possible, and the thrill of spotting those two wheat ears on the reverse is what has sparked a lifelong collecting passion for many numismatists. Children in the 20th century often started coin collecting with wheat pennies found in change, and the 1939 issue remains a favorite for building sets, whether in circulated grades or as part of high-quality registry collections. The legacy of the wheat penny, and the 1939 issue in particular, is a legacy of resilience, of memory, and of the enduring American spirit. As small as it is, the coin embodies a moment in history when the United States was still climbing out of hardship while bracing for challenges that lay ahead for collectors, investors, and historians. The 1939 wheat penny is more than a coin. It is a doorway to the past, a conversation with history struck in copper and passed from hand to hand across generations.